When you go to watch a new action movie, what kind of main character do you love to see? If you're like most people, you probably enjoy watching a character who's bold, courageous, and being good looking doesn't hurt either. Someone who starts off with virtually no chance of winning and triumphs anyway. They overcome great adversity, pain, and loss, but ultimately their suffering and hard work is finally rewarded. But most actors who play these characters aren't the same off screen. We often hear stories of celebrities who are narcissists, abusers, and worse. The cynical nature of Hollywood seems to create as many monsters off screen as it does on. Brendan Fraser is the exception. This is a man who's triumphed in some of the most popular leading roles of his day, whose career was on a path toward immortality on the silver screen, until the winds of fate and the cold cruelty of those around him ultimately led to his blacklisting and downfall. Personal tragedy and undeserved bad luck hounded him at every corner. What Brendan endured would make most people give up and become cynical, and no one could have blamed him for doing so, but he didn't. Let's take a look at the rise, fall, and unbelievable comeback of Brendan Fraser. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jabroni, everybody on YouTube talks about Raid. I already know everything about the game. There's nothing you could possibly tell me that I don't already know, and that's where you're wrong. They're constantly adding more content to this game. There's new champions and new updates every single month. Champions come from different factions, and Raid just released a brand new faction called the Sylvan Watchers. The Sylvan Watchers have forest elves, scary-looking tree spirits, and even living rock monsters. They made their home in Mistwood, a huge jungle in the east of Teleria. It's not easy to visit them with wild animals in the jungle, and the Sylvan themselves aren't too fond of trespassers. They do have a city that's open to visitors called Nyresa, which you can go check out now. And there's even more new content. To kick off the new year, there's a fresh raid update with a bunch of new features, including a new season of the Forge Pass for all your artificers, the Polarium Points program where you can earn in-game goodies, including a legendary champion and more. Speaking of champions, there's a whole batch of cool ones coming this month as well. And Raid's got a new extra bonus now. You can get legendary champion Rhonda Chase for free just by playing Raid for 7 days until February 20th. Promo code RAIDRhonda to get some items to boost her up. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan the QR code here on screen. You'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Konaru, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and an epic skill tome. Available for 30 days for new players only. And once you're in game, come find me under the name Jabroni with the 0. Here, I'll show you. Can you see that? Huge thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the story. Brendan Fraser was born in Indianapolis in 1968 to his father Peter and his mother Carol Mary. Brendan's dad worked for the Canadian Government Office of Tourism as a foreign service officer. This meant the family moved a lot. California, Washington, Ontario, the Netherlands, and Switzerland were all places the family lived while Brendan grew up. When you call that many places home, it starts to feel like you don't have a home. But where Brendan did feel at home was watching movies. He loved watching action movies like Star Wars, where he could get lost in the story and excitement that comes with an epic adventure. While on vacation with his family in London one summer, Brendan saw his first professional theater show. This gave him an idea. He could be a part of the stories he loved so much and go to places that only existed in his mind. He could be an actor. When Brendan graduated from high school, he enrolled at the Cornish College of the Arts in Seattle. After getting his bachelor's degree, Brendan enrolled at SMU in Texas to pursue a master's degree. He had the whole summer of 1991 before classes started, and he had student loans to pay off. So Brendan borrowed his mom's Chevy Spectrum and drove from Seattle to Los Angeles. His plan was to work in LA for the summer and then continue on to Dallas when classes started. He set out to find some acting work and showed up at a casting call for a movie called Dogfight. Brendan described that day saying, "They gave me a sailor outfit along with some other guys, and we did a punch-up scene with some Marines. And I got my Screen Actors Guild card and an extra $50 for the stunt adjustment, because they threw me into a pinball machine. I think I bruised a rib, but I was like, that's okay, I'll take it. I can do it again. If you want, I'll break it. You want me to do it again?" Soon after, Brendan tried out for a movie called School Ties. The producer remembers, "We were less than 4 weeks away from principal photography and we still didn't have the boy." Brendan came into the room very shy. We said, "Here are the scenes, read." And suddenly his stance changes, and this person emerges whom you can't take your eyes off. He's like all the good ones. They become the person. Brendan got the lead in School Ties alongside another unknown actor at the time named Matt Damon. The next 18 months were a whirlwind for Brendan as he was winning roles left and right, including another lead role in the movie Encino Man, where Brendan played a lovable caveman who was found frozen by 2 teenagers and thawed out in the modern world. He never ended up going to get that degree from SMU. Brendan was making it in Hollywood, but he never let it go to his head.
And that's fortunate to play the part of a schoolboy, a young aspiring athlete, and then I'm just so happy I'm just gushing here. I'm so happy I had the opportunity to sort of come full circle.
In 1993, Brendan met an actress named Afton Smith at a barbecue in LA. The two hit it off, and he was instantly smitten with her. They started dating while both were auditioning for roles in Hollywood. Brendan was always working, taking a ton of roles during this time, including George of the Jungle in 1997. Around the same time, Brendan landed a massive role. He was set to be the lead on The Mummy, an action-adventure movie where Brendan's character travels to the city of the dead and accidentally awakens an ancient cursed high priest. Filming took place over a couple years, and Brendan was traveling all over the world to work on this movie. During this time in 1998, Brendan asked Afton to marry him. He said, "I knew I could combine my personal and professional ambitions and have a friend to be with in her. 5 years later, she did me the honor of being my wife." In 1999, The Mummy was finally ready for release. This was a big gamble for Universal at the time, as there weren't many action movies with a budget of $80 million in 1999. The movie finally released and was met with massive success. Audiences loved Brendan's carefree performance as a solid guy who didn't take himself too seriously. The film ended up grossing over $415 million. Brendan was on top of the world. Brendan's success wasn't without cost. He wanted to do a good job and please his bosses because he was worried about his career drying up. Being an actor, after all, is a freelance job. If the studio doesn't want to work with you again, they generally don't have to. And being a humble and hardworking person, he would do pretty much whatever was asked of him and never say no, including to dangerous stunts.
I almost gave my life at one point during a hanging sequence. I was on a platform with a rope around my neck, and I remember the camera came around. I thought, I'm gonna make this look really good. So I sort of took a few deep breaths and kind of bared down, and then I realized I was on the balls of my feet, and the rope was going up and I had nowhere to go. And then the world kind of dialed down. And I came to, and I didn't know what was going on. And the stunt coordinator comes over and he's clapping in my face, going, Brendan, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I did, and he goes, hey, congratulations. You've just joined the club with Mel Gibson. He got choked out on Braveheart too.
Over the next few years, Brendan and Afton would have 3 boys, Griffin, Holden, and Leland. Brendan absolutely loved his kids.
Here, you had a son, is that right?
Yeah, he's 14 months old now.
Good for you, good for you. How do you like,
Love.
how do you like parenthood?
Love.
You love parenthood?
Absolutely love it. It's the reason to do everything that I do.
An actor working with Brendan in 2003 said, "He loves her so much. It's very beautiful to watch a man's love for his wife be expressed so tenderly. After the baby was born, I'd ask, how's she doing? And he'd say, she's feeling very tired, but I've never seen her look so beautiful." After The Mummy, the public didn't see as much of Brendan on the big screen anymore. He was still getting roles, but they became smaller and less frequent. Action movies of the time were dominated by titles like Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and The Matrix with Keanu Reeves. The Rock's acting career exploded, and he took center stage in the Mummy universe with the release of The Scorpion King. It seemed like Brendan was getting left in the dust. He slowly stopped doing interviews almost entirely, and the public mostly forgot about him. When he did occasionally appear, people weren't saying very nice things about him. In 2007, Brendan and Afton announced they were getting a divorce after 9 years of marriage. There weren't many details given at the time other than the statement saying that they continue to maintain a close and caring friendship. But the divorce was anything but close and caring. Afton sued Brendan for child support and alimony, and he was ordered by the court to pay her $50,000 in alimony every month and $25,000 a month in child support, a whopping $900,000 a year. Brendan petitioned the court for a reduction in his alimony payments, saying he could not afford the $50,000 a month, but didn't contest the $25,000 a month in child support. Afton's response was to sue Brendan for fraud. She claimed that he was hiding financial assets and not disclosing film contracts for 2 movies that were casting him at the time. Brendan's attorney had already given the judge all of Brendan's tax returns, showing that his income was indeed drying up year after year. Brendan's attorney argued that film contracts fall through all the time, and often the amount of money they promise you is not what you end up getting. The judge agreed and ruled that Brendan had not committed fraud, but the court case dragged on for years, and in 2014 the judge ruled against Brendan's request to reduce the $50,000 a month alimony payment, saying, "The court finds that Mr. Fraser continues to enjoy success in the film industry. He has the ability to earn income and acquire assets. The defendant's motion is denied, so ordered." In 2016, Brendan landed a minor role in a Showtime series called The Affair. He had hardly done any interviews or public appearances in many years. This is the moment the public saw a fundamentally different man than the one they had known in the late 90s and early 2000s.
I've relented a bit in recent years. I have 3 sons, and
I needed to ensure their comfort and safety, and and their mother also, the lovely and talented, my former wife, Afton. It was around that time that I think I just asked myself, why am I running so far so fast all at once? And I won't lie, it was part and parcel from having done a lot of stunt work in movies like The Mummy and you name them. I think I was just so game and ready to go no matter what, that they figured, well, heck, he's here, he's made up, he's paid for it, we might as well have him jump off the cliff or do whatever he could do. Light him on fire too. I'd just be like, yep, sure, I'll do another one, no problem. Oh, it didn't hurt that much.
Brendan was different, and in much of the interview, he seemed like a shell of his former self. He seemed genuinely intimidated to be in the room and burdened by something. Commenter said, I normally don't care about celebs, but human to human, I want to give this man a hug. He needs it. This is hard to watch. It's very hard for me as a fan of Brendan to see him like this because he used to be very active and present in interviews. There's a huge sadness in those eyes. Even though he seemed broken, Brendan was still humble as ever. Slowly but surely, Brendan started to get roles again. 5 episodes of a miniseries here, 6 episodes as a minor character there. They weren't major, but he was working. By this time, Brendan had built up something of a cult following on the internet. A lot of fans had taken notice of how Hollywood had treated him and were rooting for him to make a comeback. In 2018, Brendan was cast for a role in a TV show called Trust. GQ magazine sent one of their staff writers, Zach Barron, to visit with Brendan at his home in rural New York State. Zach didn't want to just ask Brendan about the new TV show coming out. He actually made an effort to get to know him and spent several days with him. Brendan introduced Zach to his horse, Pecos, and invited Zach to practice archery with him. Brendan explained how some physical activities were very difficult for him now, saying, by the time I did the 3rd mummy picture in China, I was put together with tape and ice. I was building an exoskeleton for myself daily. I needed a laminectomy, and the lumbar didn't take, so they had to do it again a year later. Brendan explained various back and knee surgeries he had undergone, and even one surgery on his vocal cords. Fans knew he had suffered injuries, but this was the first time the true extent of them had been revealed. Brendan told Zach that he had been in and out of hospitals for nearly 7 years. Zach asked Brendan about the interview 2 years prior, where he seemed so broken. Brendan told Zach that his mother had just died of cancer days before the interview, saying, I buried my mom. I think I was in mourning, and I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't quite sure what the format was, and I felt like, man, I got fucking old. Damn, is this the way it's done now? Zach ended up getting a lot of great material for an article way beyond a fluff piece about a new show, and Brandon went back to filming Trust. But just a few weeks after they met in person, Zach's phone rang. It was Brendan. Brendan said that he had something he wanted to tell Zach that he couldn't quite bring himself to speak about in person. He apologized, in his words, for not having the courage to speak up for risk of humiliation or damage to my career. Brendan then recounted a story that took place in the summer of 2003 in the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the organization that hosts the Golden Globes, was holding a luncheon. As Brendan was leaving the hotel, Philip Burke motioned for Brendan to come speak with him. Philip Burke was a former president of the association and undoubtedly carried some serious weight in Hollywood. As Brendan approached him, Philip reached out to shake hands, but instead reached around and groped Brendan inappropriately. Brendan was overcome with panic and fear in the moment. He was eventually able to remove Philip's hand, saying, I felt ill. I felt like a little kid. I felt like there was a ball in my throat. I thought I was going to cry. I felt like someone had thrown invisible paint on me. Brendan rushed home and told his wife Afton what had happened. He struggled with the idea of going to the police or going public with his account and said, I didn't want to contend with how that made me feel or it becoming part of my narrative. So Brendan buried it. His confusion, fear, and shame all locked away for all those years. He told Zach, I became depressed. I was blaming myself and I was miserable because I was saying, this is nothing. This guy reached around and copped a feel. That summer wore on and I can't remember what I went to work on next. The experience made me retreat. It made me feel reclusive. Soon after the incident, Brendan's representative reached out to the HFPA and requested a written apology from Philip, who replied that he was sorry if he made Brendan feel uncomfortable, but admitted no wrongdoing. Brendan says the association didn't invite him back much after that, and work started drying up for him. He told Zach, work withered on the vine for me. In my mind at least, something had been taken away from me. The phone does stop ringing in your career and you start asking yourself why. There's many reasons, but was this one of them? I think it was. I didn't feel that I belonged. Am I still frightened? Absolutely. Do I feel like I need to say something? Absolutely. Have I wanted to many, many times? Absolutely. Have I stopped myself? Absolutely. And maybe I am overreacting in terms of what the instance was. I just know what my truth is, and it's what I just spoke to you. This was the first time Brendan had spoken publicly about this incident. For 15 years, it had haunted him, destroying his confidence. And now all the pieces of Brendan's apparent destruction were finally evident for the first time. The desire to please people and work hard to the point of repeated injury had battered Brendan's body permanently. The death of his mother and painful divorce from Afton no doubt battered his heart. And his abuse at the hands of Philip Burke shook Brendan to his soul and left him blacklisted and questioning his very being. But after all this time, Brendan had finally overcome his fear and shared his story. Maybe now he could finally find peace. In 2021, Brendan was cast for The Whale, an upcoming feature-length film. Not only was he cast in a big movie for the first time in a long time, Brendan was cast as the lead actor.
I'm going to work with Scorsese and Leo and Bob De Niro.
Yes, I saw. Congratulations. That's so
Thank
exciting.
you. I think I might be sick. A little anxious.
Oh no.
I mean, it's going to be fun.
You got this. You got this.
Got it.
Just know that the internet is so behind you. We're so supportive. There are so many people out there who love you, and we're rooting for you, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Shucks, ma'am.
As the film wrapped production, it was shown at several festivals around the world. Fans gave Brendan a standing ovation everywhere this film was screened. One reporter asked Brendan if he would attend the Golden Globes if he were nominated now. "No, I will not participate. It's because of the history that I have with him, and my mother didn't raise a hypocrite. You can call me a lot of things, but not that." For the first time in his career, Brendan had finally learned to say no. No to dangerous stunts, and no to award shows hosted by organizations that blacklisted him. And with this new resolve, his confidence has returned too.
It's a redemption story about a guy called Charlie, and he's gone through significant life changes, and he's forgotten about who he is to the ones he loves, and he's running out of time to tell them that, if he can at all. But he has a superpower. Charlie can see the good in others when they can't see that in themselves, and he can bring that out in them. And I am a firm believer that we need a little bit more of that in this world, because it's the audience that gives cinema life. So I must thank you for keeping me in the job that I love.
If you like this video, you'll probably enjoy my Sam Hyde versus the World video, which you can watch right here. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay weird, internet. See you next time. Peace.